Life has a way of giving us lessons in the most unexpected forms, but the one lesson that many of us avoid learning for too long is accountability. And the truth is this: if it is always someone else's fault, you are not growing. Because blaming others is one of the most effective ways to remain stagnant, to live year after year in the same patterns, repeating the same mistakes, and yet feeling like life is unfair, as though the world has conspired against you. But what we fail to realize is that every time we point a finger outward, we give away our power, we allow circumstances and people to dictate who we become, and that is a trap that steals not just our opportunities, but our precious time. If you truly want success, if you truly want to spend your life wisely, you must stop giving your hours and your energy to blame and start directing them toward growth. Because growth is born out of responsibility, and responsibility is the courage to say, yes, this outcome may not be what I wanted, but I had a role in it. And because I had a role in it, I have the power to change it. And when you adopt this mindset, everything shifts. The disappointments of the past stop looking like injustices and start looking like teachers. The challenges of the present stop feeling like burdens and start feeling like training grounds. And the possibilities of the future stop feeling out of reach and start feeling within your grasp, because you finally recognize that your time is yours to shape, not the world's to waste. Think about it carefully. How many hours, how many days, how many years of your life have already been lost in resentment, in frustration, in replaying the story of how someone else wronged you, how someone else stood in your way, how someone else failed to appreciate you? And ask yourself honestly, did that blame make you stronger? Did it sharpen your skills? Did it move you closer to your goals, or did it quietly eat away at your time, your focus, and your energy until you had nothing left but excuses? And if you are honest, you already know the answer. Because excuses are time thieves dressed in the clothing of comfort. They make you feel safe in the moment, but they rob you of growth in the long run. And the saddest part is that many people live their entire lives this way, blaming their parents, blaming their boss, blaming society, blaming fate. And in the process, they waste decades that could have been used to build, to create, to transform, and to live fully. Accountability is not about guilt. It is not about beating yourself down or drowning in shame. Accountability is about reclaiming ownership of your time and your choices. It is about saying, this is my life, and if I want it to be different, I must be different. And the moment you begin to think this way, you stop being a passenger and you start being the driver. You stop waiting for the world to change, and you start changing yourself. And in changing yourself, you change your world. Some will argue that not everything is in our control, and they are right. There are circumstances we cannot control. There are storms we cannot stop. There are losses we cannot prevent. But accountability does not mean pretending we control the uncontrollable. It means recognizing that while we cannot choose every event, we can choose our response, we can choose our mindset, we can choose what lessons we extract from every experience, and those choices shape our destiny far more than circumstances ever could, because success is not about a perfect environment. It is about a resilient mindset, and that resilience is built through responsibility. Let me give you a truth that is hard to swallow but necessary for growth. Life will not reward you for blaming others. Life rewards action, reflection, and adaptation, and until you embrace those, you will always feel like time is slipping away without progress. And that is why this chapter comes first. Because without accountability, none of the other principles matter. You could have the best strategies for productivity, the most efficient habits, the most inspiring vision. But if you continue to believe that your failures belong to someone else, you will never apply those strategies fully. You will never discipline yourself consistently, and you will never pursue your vision with the persistence it demands, because deep down, you will always be waiting for someone else to fix things for you, and no one is coming to rescue you, because you are the one who must rescue yourself. Once you take responsibility, though, everything changes. Suddenly, the obstacles that once looked immovable become challenges you are willing to climb. Suddenly, the setbacks that once felt permanent become lessons you are eager to learn. Suddenly, the people you once resented become mirrors showing you where you need to grow. And instead of wasting your time in bitterness, You invest your time in building, in creating, in strengthening. And this shift is what separates those who merely live from those who live wisely. If you want proof, look at anyone who has achieved great success, whether in business, in art, in sports, or in life, and you will see that while their journeys were not without failure, they refused to waste time blaming others. Instead, they turned inward. They asked themselves what they could do differently. They adjusted, they grew, and over time, they built extraordinary results. Because growth compounds, each lesson learned today becomes a stepping stone for tomorrow. Each responsibility accepted today creates wisdom for the future. And each time you refuse to blame others, you give yourself the gift of progress. Accountability is not always comfortable, in fact. It often stings because it forces you to admit that you could have done better, that you should have tried harder, that you let fear or laziness or pride hold you back. But that discomfort is the birthplace of transformation. That sting is the spark of growth. And if you can endure it, if you can push through it instead of hiding behind blame, you will find that the time you once wasted on excuses becomes time you now use for excellence. So let me ask you now, where in your life have you been wasting time by blaming others? Where have you been delaying your growth by pointing fingers outward? And how much longer are you willing to lose before you decide to take ownership? Because your success, your future, and your legacy are waiting for you. But they will not wait forever. The clock is ticking, and every second you spend in blame is a second you could have spent in growth, in progress, in mastery, and in fulfillment. So if you take nothing else from this chapter, take this: stop blaming. Start growing, because the moment you own your life is the moment you begin to spend your time wisely. And that moment can be today if you choose it. One of the most life-changing realizations you can ever have is that your success is not only built on what you say yes to, but even more on what you have the courage to say no to, because every yes you give costs you a piece of your most valuable resource, your time, and once that time is spent, it is gone forever, never to return. So the question you must ask yourself daily is not just a what am I agreeing to, but what am I sacrificing when I agree? And the truth is that most people do not fail because they are lazy or because they lack talent. They fail because they allow their time to be consumed by things that do not matter, things that distract them, things that steal their focus, and they say yes out of fear. Fear of missing out, fear of disappointing others, fear of seeming selfish. But here is the paradox. When you always say yes to everyone else, you are saying no to yourself, and when you say no to yourself, you are rejecting your own growth, your own goals, and your own potential. And that rejection is what leads to wasted years and unfulfilled lives. Imagine for a moment that your time is a bank account with a limited balance. Each day you are given 24 hours, no more and no less, and you are asked to spend it. Now, if you were given money, you would think carefully about how to spend it. You would not hand it out freely to everyone who asked. You would protect it, you would invest it, but with time, most people do the opposite. They hand it out without thought. They give hours to conversations that go nowhere, projects that lead nowhere, and relationships that drain them, and then they wonder why they feel empty, why they feel stuck, why they feel unfulfilled. But the answer is simple. They have said yes too many times, and those yeses have cost them their future. The power of saying no is not about being harsh, rude, or indifferent. It is about recognizing that you are the guardian of your own time, and if you do not guard it, no one else will, because people will always take as much of your time as you are willing to give, whether intentionally or unintentionally, and unless you create boundaries, you will be pulled into countless directions, none of which lead to the life you want. So the discipline of saying no is really the discipline of choosing yourself, of honoring your vision, of protecting your energy, and of directing your life toward what truly matters. Now, many struggle with this because they confuse kindness with compliance. They believe that in order to be liked, they must always agree, but understand this. Saying yes to everyone is not kindness. It is self-abandonment. True kindness comes from strength, and strength comes from clarity. The clarity to know what aligns with your goals and what does not, what serves your growth and what drains it, what builds your future and what distracts you from it. And once you see this clearly, you will realize that every no you give to the unimportant is actually a yes to something far greater, a yes to your dreams, a yes to your priorities, a yes to the best version of yourself. Think about the most successful people you admire, whether they are leaders, creators, innovators, or thinkers. And you will notice one thing: they are not people who said yes to everything. In fact, they are people who became masters of saying no, no to distractions, no to shallow commitments, no to wasted energy, and because they protected their time so fiercely, they had the focus and the space to say yes to the opportunities that truly mattered, the opportunities that defined their legacy. If you want to spend your time wisely, you must be willing to disappoint some people, because the truth is that you cannot please everyone. And every time you try, you are delaying your own growth, so stop fearing the discomfort of someone else's disappointment. Because temporary discomfort is nothing compared to the permanent cost of wasted time. Saying no is an act of courage. It is an act of self-respect, and it is an act of vision because it forces you to confront what you truly value, and it requires you to prioritize, to decide what deserves your time and what does not, and that decision-making process is the essence of wisdom. But let me be clear, saying no does not mean isolating yourself or shutting down every opportunity. It means filtering, it means discerning, it means asking yourself, does this serve my goals? Does this align with my purpose? Does this bring me closer to the person I want to become? And if the answer is no, then your answer should also be no. Because every time you ignore that truth, you pay a price with your hours, with your focus, and with your life. Some of you may already feel guilty at the thought of saying no, but guilt is the chain that keeps people stuck. Guilt is the voice that whispers, you owe your time to everyone else. But you don't. You owe your time to your purpose, to your growth, to the mission that only you can fulfill. And if you allow guilt to control your choices, you will never fully step into the life you are meant to live. So release that guilt. Understand that saying no is not rejection of people, it is protection of purpose, and those who truly value you will respect your boundaries. Those who don't were never meant to walk your path in the first place. The power of saying no also lies in the doors it opens, because when you stop scattering your time on 1,000 meaningless things, you suddenly find the space to focus deeply, to master your craft, to nurture the relationships that matter, and to pursue the opportunities that change your life, because focus is impossible without boundaries, and growth is impossible without focus. So saying no is the seed from which all wise time management grows. Remember, your life is not infinite. Your energy is not limitless, and your future is not guaranteed, so every yes you give should be given with intention, with thought, with awareness of what you are trading for it. Because time is the one currency you will never earn back, and once it is gone forever, so protect it, guard it, honor it, and learn to say no with confidence. Because in that small word lies the power to unlock the life you truly desire. In every pursuit of success, people talk about motivation as though it were the magic key that unlocks greatness. They search for motivational videos. They repeat motivational quotes. They wait for that surge of energy that makes them want to leap out of bed and chase their dreams. But the uncomfortable truth is that motivation is temporary. Motivation is like the weather. Sometimes it shines bright, sometimes it disappears, and if you build your life on motivation alone, you will always be at the mercy of its rise and fall, and that is why the truly successful, the ones who spend their time wisely and achieve remarkable things, do not depend on motivation. They depend on discipline, because discipline is not about feelings, discipline is about decisions. It is about saying, whether I feel like it or not, I will do what needs to be done, and this mindset, though less glamorous than bursts of motivation, is the real engine of progress. Think of an athlete training for a championship. Do you think they wake up every morning filled with excitement and energy, eager to push their body to its limits? The truth is that most mornings they are tired, sore, and tempted to rest, but they go anyway because their commitment to the goal is stronger than their momentary feelings. And this is discipline, showing up regardless of how you feel, choosing action over excuses, persistence over comfort, long-term growth over short-term relief. And when you embrace this way of living, you begin to understand why so many people waste years chasing motivation instead of cultivating discipline. Because motivation is like a spark. It can light the fire, but if you rely only on the spark, the fire will die. You need discipline to keep adding fuel day after day, whether the spark is present or not. Ask yourself honestly, how many times have you been motivated at the start of something, maybe a new job, a new project, a new workout plan, a new business idea, only to quit weeks or months later when the excitement faded? This is the cycle of motivation. It begins high, it falls low, and without discipline you stop. But if you had discipline, you would push through the low moments. You would keep going until consistency turned effort into results, and those results would reignite motivation. But the difference is that discipline does not depend on the cycle. Discipline carries you through the cycle. It keeps you moving until momentum is built. And momentum is what transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary success. Discipline is also deeply connected to how you spend your time, because time is not only about hours on the clock, it is about what you choose to do with those hours. And without discipline, you will always choose what is true. Easy over what is necessary, you will waste time on distractions, procrastination, and temporary pleasures, telling yourself you will start tomorrow, but tomorrow becomes next week, next month, and eventually never, while discipline says, I start now, I continue tomorrow, I persist next week, and I do not stop until I finish. And that persistence creates a compound effect where small, consistent actions done daily add up to massive results over time. And this is how discipline transforms your life, quietly, steadily, relentlessly, in ways that motivation never could. But here is the beauty of discipline. Though it requires effort at first, it eventually becomes easier, because the brain adapts, it forms habits, and what once felt like struggle becomes routine, just like brushing your teeth or tying your shoes, and once discipline becomes habit, success becomes inevitable, because you no longer waste time negotiating with yourself, you no longer spend energy debating whether you feel like it, you simply act, and action is where results are born. To understand this better, think about the difference between amateurs and professionals. Amateurs work when they feel inspired. Professionals work whether they feel inspired or not. Amateurs wait for the right mood. Professionals create regardless of mood. Amateurs let motivation dictate their time. Professionals let discipline guide it, and that is why professionals achieve excellence while amateurs remain stuck in cycles of inconsistency. And here lies another truth. Discipline is not about being harsh or robotic. It is about being committed to the future you desire. It is about respecting yourself enough to not waste your time on things that pull you away from your vision. It is about loving yourself enough to hold yourself accountable, to say, I deserve the results of my effort, so I will not cheat myself by avoiding the work. And when you live this way, discipline becomes less of a burden and more of a gift. Because every disciplined action is proof that you are investing in your own growth, your own future, your own legacy. Still, many people fear discipline because they see it as restrictive. They think discipline means less freedom, but the truth is the opposite. Lack of discipline traps you. It enslaves you to moods, distractions, and impulses. While discipline liberates you, it gives you the freedom to achieve, the freedom to grow, the freedom to use your time in ways that matter, because discipline builds structure, and structure creates progress, and progress creates freedom. So discipline, in reality, is the highest form of self-respect and self-liberation. Let me make this practical. If you want to cultivate discipline, start small, commit to one action daily, something so simple you cannot excuse it away, and do it consistently, because discipline grows like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it becomes. And soon what felt difficult becomes natural. And once you experience the results, the satisfaction of progress, you will see that discipline is not your enemy. It is your ally, your greatest tool for making sure your time is never wasted. So the next time you find yourself waiting for motivation, stop and remind yourself that motivation may or may not arrive, but discipline is always available. It is a choice you can make right now. It is the decision to act regardless of emotion. And if you choose discipline again and again, day after day, your future will not depend on the rise and fall of fleeting feelings. It will be built on the steady foundation of consistent effort. And that is how success is created, not in bursts of energy, not in waves of inspiration, but in the quiet, steady, disciplined use of time. Because in the end, discipline over motivation is what separates the dreamers from the doers, the talkers from the achievers, the wishful thinkers from the wise spenders of time. And if you truly wish to spend your time wisely, Discipline is not optional. It is essential. It is the path. It is the practice, and it is the difference between a life of excuses and a life of excellence. Every moment of your life carries with it a hidden price tag, and that price tag is determined by where your attention goes, because attention is time, and time is life. So when you give your attention away to things that do not matter, you are not just wasting seconds or minutes, you are trading away pieces of your future. And this is the true cost of distraction, a cost so subtle that most people never calculate it, yet so devastating that it can steal entire years before you even notice they are gone. And in today's world, distraction has become the default state of existence. Everywhere you turn there are screens, notifications, endless streams of content designed not to feed your growth, but to capture your attention, to keep you scrolling, to keep you consuming. And while you believe you are choosing entertainment, what is really happening is that your future is being chipped away in small increments, because every time you indulge a distraction, you postpone progress, you delay growth, you dilute focus, and you squander opportunities. And the tragedy is that many people will spend more hours scrolling on a device in 1 week than they will spend building their dreams in 1 year, and then they wonder why success feels distant, why life feels stagnant, why goals remain unachieved. But the answer is written clearly in the story of their days. Their time was spent, not invested, and the spender of time without awareness will always be poor in results. Distraction is not just entertainment or digital noise. It comes in many forms, from gossip-filled conversations to toxic relationships, from busy work that feels productive but leads nowhere to endless worrying that paralyzes instead of propels. And the cruelest thing about distraction is that it feels harmless in the moment. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. But over time, those minutes add up, and what once seemed small becomes monumental, because the compound effect works both ways. Just as small daily actions of discipline can create great success, small daily distractions can create great failure. And if you do not take control of where your attention goes, distractions will take control of you, because the world is not neutral. It is competing for your focus every second of the day, and those who win that competition profit from your time, while you lose your future. Consider this. If you lose 1 hour every day to distraction, that is 7 hours a week, 30 hours a month, 365 hours a year, which is more than 15 full days, and imagine what you could build in 15 focused days. Imagine what skills you could learn, what relationships you could strengthen, what health you could improve, what dreams you could advance. And yet most people throw away far more than an hour a day without thought. They spend their most precious resource as though it were infinite, and then they wake up 1 day older, 1 year older, 1 decade older, and realize that distraction stole their life in plain sight. So how do you break free from distraction? How do you reclaim your time, your attention, and your focus? The answer is both simple and demanding. You must live intentionally. You must create boundaries. You must recognize that every yes to distraction is a no to your destiny, and you must develop the courage to say no to what is easy so you can say yes to what is essential. Because distraction will always tempt you with ease, with comfort, with the illusion of rest. But what it really gives you is regret, and regret is the heaviest cost of all. To master distraction, begin by becoming aware of it. Track your days. Notice where your time actually goes, and you will likely be shocked at the hours lost to meaningless consumption, because awareness is the first step toward change. Once you see the leak, you can begin to repair it, and once you repair it, you can redirect your attention toward what builds you instead of what breaks you. But this requires discipline, because distraction is seductive. It feels good. It provides quick pleasure, while focus often feels difficult. It demands effort, but the results of focus are lasting, while the results of distraction are empty. So the choice is clear, And yet it is a choice you must make over and over, day after day, moment after moment, because distractions never stop knocking at your door. They never go away, but you can learn to stop answering. And that is how you win. Ask yourself, how much of your life are you willing to sell for distraction? How many hours of your future are you willing to trade for the fleeting dopamine rush of meaningless scrolling? How many dreams are you willing to bury under piles of wasted time? Because that is what distraction demands of you, and the only way to refuse is to value your time enough to protect it fiercely, to guard your focus like the treasure it is, to design your environment so that it supports your growth instead of sabotaging it. Because willpower alone is not enough. You must also create systems. Turn off notifications, schedule your focus hours, surround yourself with people who respect your time, limit your exposure to what drains you, and watch how your life transforms when you stop leaking time through distraction. Remember, success is rarely stolen in one grand act of failure. It is usually lost in small, unnoticed distractions that add up over time, just as a ship does not sink because of one drop of water, but because of countless drops seeping in day after day. And your life works the same way. So plug the leaks now, choose focus now, because every moment you rescue from distraction is a moment you can invest in growth, in creation, in relationships, in health, in mastery, in legacy, and those investments will compound into a future you are proud of, while distraction compounds into a future filled with regret. The cost of distraction is not only the loss of time, it is the loss of potential, because every hour wasted is an hour that could have been used to become more, to do more, to give more, and potential wasted becomes pain, the kind of pain that haunts you later when you realize what you could have been if only you had focused. And that is why wise people treat distraction as the enemy, because they understand that time is sacred, and to squander it is to betray yourself. So from this moment forward, commit to valuing your time, commit to protecting your attention, commit to saying no to distraction, because the life you want will not come from scattered focus. It will come from directed effort, and that effort is only possible when you recognize and refuse to pay the devastating cost of distraction. Your life is not built in a single day, a single decision, or a single act of brilliance. It is built brick by brick, choice by choice, and routine by routine, and those bricks, those choices, those routines are what we call habits. And if you wish to understand the future you are heading toward, you need only look at the habits you practice today, because habits are the invisible architects of destiny. They design the shape of your days, they determine the rhythm of your progress, and they silently create the results you will either celebrate or regret years from now. And the truth is that most people underestimate the power of habits, because they are small, because they feel ordinary, because brushing your teeth, reading for 10 minutes, writing a page, exercising for 20 minutes, saving a few dollars, or practicing gratitude for 5 minutes seems insignificant in the moment. But when compounded daily, these tiny actions accumulate into monumental results. Just as a single drop of water cannot carve a canyon, but countless drops over time can create the Grand Canyon itself. And the same law applies to your life, because repeated habits, whether good or bad, shape who you become in ways that are impossible to escape. The tragedy is that many people spend more time dreaming about success than building the habits that create success. They imagine wealth, health, knowledge, and happiness, but they continue to practice the habits of procrastination, laziness, distraction, and negativity, and then they wonder why their lives do not reflect their dreams. But life is not shaped by wishes, it is shaped by actions, and actions repeated consistently become habits, and habits become identity, and identity becomes destiny. So if you wish to change your future, you must change your habits, because until you change what you do daily, nothing in your life will truly change. Think of your habits as seeds. Some seeds grow into trees that provide shade, fruit and strength, while others grow into weeds that choke progress and steal nourishment. And the garden of your life will be determined by which seeds you choose to plant and nurture. And the danger is that weeds grow easily, while fruitful trees take patience, discipline, and care, which is why so many people unconsciously cultivate bad habits. They are easy, they require no thought, no resistance, no discipline, but they destroy silently, one wasted hour here, one unhealthy choice there, one excuse repeated again and again, and before you realize it, years are gone, opportunities are missed, potential is lost, and the weight of regret begins to settle in, all because of habits you never controlled. But the good news is that habits, unlike fate, are not fixed. They can be changed, replaced, reshaped, and redirected, but only if you are intentional, only if you decide to take ownership of your daily actions instead of letting them control you. Ask yourself honestly, what habits are you practicing today that do not serve your future? What routines are stealing your time? What patterns are draining your energy? What actions are reinforcing mediocrity instead of mastery? And be courageous enough to confront them, because awareness is the first step, and then commit to building new habits, even small ones, because small habits are powerful. They sneak beneath the resistance of the mind, they build confidence, they create momentum, and they grow stronger with repetition until they are no longer tasks you struggle to complete, but natural parts of who you are, and this is the essence of transformation. When good habits become so ingrained that you no longer think about them, you simply live them, and in living them, you create a future that reflects their power. Think of someone who reads for 30 minutes a day. It may not seem like much, but in 1 year, that person will have read nearly 30 books. In 5 years, 150 books, and that knowledge will shape their thinking, their opportunities, and their success, while someone who spends that same time scrolling aimlessly or watching meaningless content will not only remain stagnant, but may regress, because bad habits not only steal growth, they create decline, and the same applies to exercise, to saving money, to practicing a craft, to building relationships, because habits multiply over time. They are never neutral. They either work for you or against you, and the question is which direction your habits are currently taking you. If you look closely, you will see that all high achievers share this secret. They do not necessarily have more talent, more resources, or more luck, but they master their habits. They rise early, they train consistently, they learn daily, they protect their focus, and these habits, compounded over years, create the extraordinary results that others call success. But success is never sudden. It is the accumulated weight of disciplined habits, practiced faithfully. And if you wish to join their ranks, you must stop searching for shortcuts and start building the right habits, because shortcuts fade, but habits remain. Yet building habits requires patience, because results are not immediate. And this is why so many quit. They go to the gym for a week and see no change. They save for a month and feel no wealth. They study for a few days and see no mastery. And they give up, not realizing that habits require time to bear fruit, just as seeds require time to sprout, grow and bloom. And if you can endure that invisible phase, if you can continue practicing the habit, even when results are not visible, you will one day wake up to a transformed life. And others will call you lucky, not realizing that your luck was built daily, quietly, through habits they never saw. So let me ask you directly, what future are your habits creating right now? Because whether you admit it or not, they are shaping your destiny. And if you do not like the answer, then it is time to change them, to stop tolerating habits that destroy you, to start nurturing habits that build you, and to recognize that the greatest gift you can give yourself is not a single act of willpower, but the daily discipline of good habits. Because habits save you from wasted time, from endless decision fatigue, from cycles of failure, and they create a structure in which success becomes almost inevitable. because once the right habits are in place, your life will move forward naturally, consistently, and powerfully, without the need for constant motivation or extraordinary effort. And that is the secret of the wise spender of time. Understanding that habits are the true foundation of a successful future. The people you surround yourself with are not just companions on your journey. They are silent sculptors of your character, your mindset, and ultimately your destiny, because whether you realize it or not, the company you keep is shaping the way you think, the choices you make, and the way you spend your time. And if you wish to know where your life is headed, you only need to look at the people you spend the most hours with, because human beings are mirrors. We reflect each other, we absorb habits, beliefs, energy, and behaviors, and over time, we become more and more like those around us, which is why the company you keep is either the greatest investment in your future or the greatest threat to it. And the truth is harsh, but clear. If you spend your time with people who waste theirs, you will waste yours. If you spend your time with people who settle for mediocrity, you will slowly settle too. If you spend your time with negative, complaining, small-minded people, you will find your own thoughts shrinking and your own ambitions fading, because no one escapes the influence of their environment, and time spent in the wrong environment is time spent walking in the wrong direction. Yet on the other hand, if you choose wisely, if you surround yourself with people who are disciplined, driven, growth-oriented, positive, and committed to excellence, you will absorb their energy, their vision, their habits, and without even realizing it, you will rise to meet their standard, because excellence is contagious, discipline is contagious, ambition is contagious, and success itself is contagious. And the company you keep determines whether you are catching sickness or catching strength. And this is why every moment spent with people is either pushing you closer to your goals or pulling you further away, and you cannot afford to ignore that truth, not if you value your time, not if you value your future, not if you value your one chance at life. But here lies the challenge. Many of us cling to relationships out of habit, out of history, out of guilt, or out of fear. We tell ourselves that we owe our time to people simply because we have always known them, or because they expect it. But what we fail to realize is that loyalty to the wrong company is betrayal of our own potential. And when you spend years tied to people who drain you, you are not proving kindness, you are proving neglect of yourself. And neglect of yourself always leads to regret. So you must ask the hard questions. Who around me inspires me to be better? Who challenges me to grow? Who holds me accountable? Who celebrates my progress? Who adds value to my time? And just as importantly, who wastes my energy? Who distracts me? Who criticizes without cause? Who belittles my dreams? Who encourages bad habits? Who steals my time with drama, gossip, or negativity? Because until you answer these questions honestly, you will never understand the hidden cost of your relationships. And the hidden cost is your time, your focus, and your destiny. Remember this: time spent with the wrong company is not just time lost, it is potential lost, because every hour wasted on meaningless conversations or toxic environments is an hour you could have invested in building, creating, learning, or connecting with those who uplift you. And life is too short to give away your most valuable resource to people who do not respect it. So do not be afraid to let go. Do not be afraid to create boundaries. Do not be afraid to say, "This relationship no longer serves the person I am becoming." Because growth requires pruning. Just as a gardener removes weeds and weak branches so that the tree can flourish, you too must remove what holds you back so that you can grow into your best self. Some will say this is harsh, that it is selfish, but the truth is that self-preservation is not selfishness, it is wisdom. And protecting your time is not cruelty, it is clarity, because by protecting your time and surrounding yourself with the right company, you create the space to become stronger, and in becoming stronger, you are able to give more, to contribute more, and to serve more meaningfully. Whereas if you allow the wrong people to drain you, you will end up empty, resentful, and ineffective. And that serves no one, so be intentional, seek out mentors who are ahead of you, peers who are striving alongside you, and friends who genuinely care about your growth. Invest in relationships that challenge you to think bigger, to act braver, to discipline yourself harder, because those relationships are not just pleasant. They are life-changing. They multiply your efforts. They accelerate your growth. They save you years of mistakes. And they remind you that your time is valuable and your dreams are valid. And if you can create a circle of people like this, your environment will push you forward even when you feel weak, because the right company will not let you quit. The right company will not let you waste your time. The right company will demand that you rise. And this is how greatness is built, not alone, but with a circle of people who sharpen you like iron sharpens iron. So ask yourself now, who in your life sharpens you, and who dulls you, who pushes you forward, and who pulls you back, who makes you believe in your future, and who convinces you to settle for less, because your time is too precious to spend with those who cannot see your worth or who refuse to grow alongside you. And once you know the answer, you must have the courage to act on it, to distance yourself from what weakens you, and to draw closer to what strengthens you. Because in the end, the company you keep will either be the reason you succeed or the excuse for why you didn't. And the choice is entirely yours, but the clock is ticking. And every moment you delay this choice is a moment wasted in the wrong company, and wasted time is the one debt you can never repay. So choose wisely, protect your circle, and remember that who you walk with today determines where you arrive tomorrow. In a world that glorifies hustle, endless work, and constant motion, rest is often misunderstood, misjudged, and even demonized. Yet the truth is that rest is not laziness. It is strategy, it is renewal, it is preparation for greatness, because no human being, no matter how talented, disciplined, or ambitious, can function at their highest level without recovery. And yet so many people live as if sleep is weakness, as if slowing down is failure, as if exhaustion is proof of dedication, when in reality exhaustion is proof of mismanagement, because what good is relentless work if it destroys your health, drains your creativity, ruins your relationships, and leaves you too tired to enjoy the success you fought so hard to achieve? And what good is endless hustle if you never stop long enough to reflect, to reset, to breathe, to think clearly, to realign your actions with your purpose? Because rest is not time wasted, rest is time invested, and when you rest wisely, you multiply your energy, your clarity, your productivity, and your resilience. But when you neglect rest, you are borrowing from tomorrow, spending energy you do not have, living on credit, and eventually the debt comes due, whether through burnout, illness, regret, or mediocrity, because a mind that is constantly exhausted cannot innovate, cannot lead, cannot create, and cannot succeed at the level you dream of. Think of an athlete. No matter how skilled, no matter how determined, no athlete trains every second of every day, because the body grows not only in exertion, but in recovery. Muscles are built not only when lifting weights, but when resting after the lift. And the same principle applies to the mind, to the spirit, to life itself, because true growth happens in cycles, cycles of focus and cycles of rest, cycles of intensity and cycles of renewal. And when you deny yourself the cycle of rest, you break the pattern of growth. And yet many people cannot see this. They believe if they are not constantly grinding, they are falling behind. But the truth is the opposite. The person who learns to rest strategically will outperform the person who exhausts themselves, because consistent rest sustains long-term productivity, while neglect of rest creates short bursts of progress, followed by long crashes of burnout. So you must shift your thinking. You must see rest as part of the process, as fuel for the journey, not as a distraction from it. Ask yourself, When was the last time you gave yourself permission to rest without guilt, without apology, without thinking of what you should be doing? Because guilt-free rest is the only kind of rest that truly restores. And if you spend your so-called rest scrolling through distractions, drowning in noise, or feeling guilty for not working, you are not resting, you are numbing, you are escaping, but you are not renewing. Because true rest is intentional. It is about choosing practices, environments, and rhythms that restore your energy, your focus, and your joy. Whether that is sleep, meditation, prayer, solitude, nature, meaningful conversations, or creative hobbies that refill your soul. Because rest is not about doing nothing. It is about doing what restores you, what brings you back to yourself, what sharpens your mind and calms your spirit. And until you learn this, you will continue to confuse rest with laziness, when in fact, the opposite of laziness is not constant work, it is purposeful living, and purposeful living includes seasons of rest, because life is not meant to be a straight line of endless productivity. It is meant to flow like waves, and those who honor the rhythm of the waves succeed without destroying themselves. Think of the great thinkers, the inventors, the artists, the leaders of history. They did not create breakthroughs by chaining themselves endlessly to tasks. They often found inspiration during walks, during naps, during quiet moments of reflection, because the mind needs space to connect ideas, to solve problems, to imagine possibilities, and that space is created in rest. But today's culture tricks us into thinking that business equals value, that if our schedule is full, we must be important. But business without rest is not importance, it is imbalance, and imbalance leads to collapse. So you must resist this trap. You must be brave enough to say, I will rest, I will recharge, I will protect my energy. Because in doing so you are not falling behind, you are positioning yourself to move further ahead. And you must remember this: rest does not take away from your success. Rest protects your success, because success that costs you your health, your peace, and your joy is not true success. It is slavery to achievement, and you deserve more than that. So do not wait until your body breaks down, until your mind shuts down, until your spirit burns out to learn this lesson. Learn it now. Practice it now. Guard your rest as fiercely as you guard your work, because both matter equally, and together they create the balance of a life well lived. And if you fear that resting will make you lazy, understand this: laziness is not resting. Laziness is avoiding what must be done. Resting is preparing for what must be done. Laziness drains your future. Rest builds your future. Laziness is passive neglect. Rest is active renewal, and the difference lies in intention. So do not confuse the two. Do not let others shame you into thinking that sleep, stillness, or quiet is wasted time, because the wise know that rest is sacred, rest is strength, rest is a strategy for victory. And if you truly desire to spend your time wisely, you must recognize that rest is not the enemy of progress, but the engine of it. Because when you learn to rest without guilt, you will discover a deeper, calmer, stronger energy that will allow you to live, work, and succeed at a level that exhaustion can never reach. And that is the truth. Rest is not laziness, it is wisdom. How you start your day sets the rhythm for how the rest of it will unfold. Because the morning is not just the beginning of the day, it is the foundation of your time, your energy, your focus, and your attitude. And if you learn to master your morning, you learn to master your life. While if you lose your morning to chaos, distraction, and aimlessness, you often spend the entire day playing catch-up, chasing focus that never arrives, and reacting instead of creating. And the tragedy is that most people treat their mornings casually, hitting snooze until the last possible moment, rushing through routines without thought, starting the day with stress, noise, and other people's demands through emails or notifications, not realizing that they are giving away the most powerful, most sacred, most creative part of the day to chance, and then they wonder why their lives feel rushed, scattered, and unproductive. But the truth is simple. Mornings matter, mornings multiply, mornings build momentum, and those who take control of their mornings take control of their future. Because when you own the first hour of your day, you create a ripple effect that influences every hour that follows. And this is not about copying someone else's perfect routine, because every person's morning may look different. It is about intention, about beginning the day with clarity, discipline, and purpose, instead of stumbling into it blindly. Think of a morning as the launch pad of a rocket. If the launch is sloppy, the trajectory will be unstable. But if the launch is precise and powerful, the trajectory will be unstoppable. And the same principle applies to you, because the actions you choose in the morning either propel you toward focus and productivity or anchor you in distraction and fatigue. So ask yourself, how do you currently begin your mornings? Do you begin with gratitude, with clarity, with discipline, with action, or do you begin with complaints, with worry, with scrolling through endless feeds of noise that have nothing to do with your destiny? Because that choice is more powerful than you think, and it is a choice you make every single day, whether consciously or unconsciously. And if you continue to make it unconsciously, you are surrendering your mornings to randomness. But if you make it consciously, you are reclaiming your life. Mastering the morning begins with the night before, because you cannot expect to wake up energized if you fall asleep carelessly, scrolling into exhaustion, or staying up without discipline. And one of the most important habits you can build is protecting your sleep, so that your morning starts with strength instead of struggle, because mornings are easier when your body and mind are rested. And once you wake, the first thing you choose to do becomes the signal to your brain about what matters most. So if you begin with distractions, your brain learns to seek distractions. But if you begin with purpose, your brain learns to seek progress. And that is why successful people often guard their first hour fiercely, filling it with habits that sharpen the mind, strengthen the body, and align the spirit, such as reading, journaling, meditation, prayer, exercise, or simply reviewing their goals and intentions for the day, because these practices create clarity, and clarity creates power, while most people wake up and immediately hand over their clarity to the world, reacting to messages, news, or demands. And in doing so, they lose themselves before the day even begins. Think of how powerful it would be to start your mornings with stillness, to breathe deeply before rushing into the noise, to speak affirmations instead of doubts, to move your body instead of dragging it, to plan your day instead of being controlled by it, because these simple practices are not just rituals. They are declarations that your time matters, your life matters, your energy matters, and that you will not give away your most important hours to chance or chaos. And understand this: you do not need hours of elaborate rituals, you only need intention and consistency, because even 20 focused minutes in the morning spent on the right practices can change the course of your day, your week, your year, and ultimately your life. Because mornings compound, they add up, and over time they create habits, and habits create identity. So if you learn to consistently begin with strength, discipline, and clarity, you will become the kind of person who lives with strength, discipline, and clarity. And that identity will reflect in every area of your life, from your work to your relationships to your health. But the key is consistency, because mastering the morning is not about having one great morning and then slipping back into old patterns. It is about making it a way of life, about refusing to allow excuses like, "I'm not a morning person," or "I'm too tired," to define you. Because while some people naturally rise earlier than others, everyone has the power to create intentional mornings, and you must stop telling yourself that discipline is for others, because discipline is a choice, and the morning is the best place to practice that choice. And the more you practice it, the easier it becomes, until what once felt difficult becomes natural. and what once felt unnatural becomes necessary. And in that shift, you will realize that mornings are not a burden, they are a gift. The greatest opportunity. You have to set the tone for success. Think of it this way: if you were to invest in the stock market, you would want to invest in the stock that compounds daily. And that is exactly what mornings are. They are daily investments that compound into long-term growth. But if you waste them, you are throwing away the highest yielding investment of your day. And no one who wastes their highest yielding investment can expect extraordinary returns. So let me ask you, how many mornings have you wasted already? And how many more are you willing to waste before you realize that every day is a chance to start again? That every sunrise is an invitation to begin with power, and that every morning you master is a step closer to the life you desire, because time is moving, mornings are passing, and your future is being built one sunrise at a time, and the choice is yours. Will you continue to surrender your mornings to distractions, or will you reclaim them, reshape them, and master them? Because in mastering your morning, you master your day, and in mastering your day, you master your destiny. The moment you stop learning, you stop growing, and the moment you stop growing, you start declining. Because life does not stand still, the world does not pause, knowledge does not freeze, and progress does not wait for anyone. And if you are not learning every day, you are falling behind every day, whether you realize it or not. Because those who embrace learning build momentum, they sharpen their minds, they expand their vision, they discover opportunities, and they stay ahead of the curve, while those who resist learning, who believe they already know enough, slowly trap themselves in cages of ignorance, and those cages grow tighter with every passing year, until one day they realize the world has passed them by, their skills are outdated, their ideas are stale, and their dreams are unreachable, not because they lacked potential, but because they lacked the humility to keep learning. And humility is the foundation of learning. Because to learn, you must admit you do not know, you must remain curious, you must remain hungry, and you must resist the pride that whispers, "I already know this," because pride locks the door to wisdom, but humility opens it wide, and the wise understand that no matter how much they know, there is always more to discover, always more to refine, always more to master, because life itself is the greatest classroom, and every day presents lessons for those who are willing to see them. Yet many people waste these lessons. They wake up and go through the motions of life without reflection, without curiosity, without the desire to extract meaning from experience, and in doing so, they waste time, because time spent without learning is time wasted. But the person who commits to learning every day transforms ordinary hours into extraordinary preparation, because learning compounds like interest, and just as money invested grows over time, knowledge invested grows too. Each book read, each skill practiced, each conversation with a mentor, each reflection on failure, each observation of success, each moment of curiosity adds a layer of wisdom, and wisdom creates leverage. Leverage creates opportunity, and opportunity creates transformation. So when you decide to become a lifelong learner, you decide to never stop evolving, and in that evolution you become unstoppable, because no challenge remains permanent, no problem remains unsolvable, no limitation remains fixed, when you have the humility and the hunger to learn. And learning is not confined to classrooms, to formal degrees, or to lectures, because the greatest learners understand that education is everywhere. It is in the books you read, the podcasts you hear, the failures you endure, the mistakes you correct, the mentors you seek, the questions you ask, and the reflections you make at the end of each day, because life is generous with lessons, but it is strict with students, and only those who pay attention gain the reward. And you must ask yourself, are you paying attention? Are you extracting the lessons from your days? Or are you repeating the same cycles of mistakes without reflection? because a mistake repeated without learning is wasted pain, but a mistake reflected upon becomes wisdom, and wisdom is priceless, but it only comes to those who choose to learn from what life offers them. So create the habit of daily learning and protect it fiercely. Commit to reading a few pages each day, because books are concentrated knowledge. They give you access to the minds of the greatest thinkers, leaders, inventors, and dreamers in history. And when you read, you are not just consuming words, you are absorbing decades of experience in hours. You are compressing lifetimes into lessons, and there is no greater return on investment than that. But do not stop at books. Seek mentors, because a mentor's wisdom saves you years of wasted effort. A mentor can guide you away from pitfalls, point you towards shortcuts built from experience, and remind you of your potential when you doubt it. And if you cannot find a mentor in person, seek one in books, in videos, in recordings, because the voices of the wise are always available to those who search for them. And beyond mentors, learn from peers, from colleagues, from strangers, because everyone you meet knows something you do not. And if you approach people with curiosity instead of judgment, you will be amazed at how much they can teach you, because the world is filled with hidden teachers. And the lesson appears the moment you are humble enough to ask the question, "What can I learn here?" And that question will turn every situation into a classroom, every challenge into a lesson, every failure into a stepping stone, and every success into a case study for improvement. And when you live this way, your time is never wasted, because even in struggle, you are learning, even in loss, you are learning, even in waiting, you are learning. And that means that no moment is empty, every moment has value, and the person who extracts that value is the one who wins the long game of life. But learning every day requires discipline, because it is easier to scroll, to drift, to waste hours in mindless entertainment than it is to sit, read, study, reflect, and grow, and the temptation of comfort will always pull you away from growth. But you must resist it. You must choose deliberately to prioritize learning over distraction, growth over stagnation, curiosity over complacency, and when you do, you will discover that your confidence grows, your perspective expands, and your opportunities multiply, because the world belongs to those who keep learning, those who refuse to stay the same, those who reinvent themselves again and again, while those who resist learning slowly fade, becoming relics of a world that no longer exists. So ask yourself, who do you want to be? The one who evolves with time, or the one who is left behind by it? And if your answer is the one who evolves, then make the decision today that you will never waste a day without learning something, whether big or small, because small lessons accumulated daily lead to extraordinary wisdom, and extraordinary wisdom leads to extraordinary success. So protect your mind, feed it with knowledge, challenge it with questions, stretch it with curiosity, because your mind is your greatest asset, and learning is the way you invest in it. And if you neglect this, no amount of time management will save you, no amount of ambition will carry you, because ambition without knowledge is a ship without direction, but knowledge with ambition is a ship with sails, a compass, and a map, and that ship will reach its destination, while others drift aimlessly. So never stop learning, never stop growing, never stop seeking wisdom, because learning every day is not a choice if you want success. It is a requirement, it is the foundation upon which every achievement is built. And when you commit to it, you will discover that success is not a sudden event. It is the inevitable outcome of a life lived in pursuit of knowledge, growth, and mastery. Shakta Hunjan money vs. time. Money and time are two of the greatest resources we are given in life. But while money can be earned, saved, invested, lost, and regained, time is different, because once time is gone, it never returns, and yet most people treat money as precious, while treating time as expendable, when in truth, time is infinitely more valuable than money, because you can always create more wealth. but you can never create more hours. And if you want to live wisely, if you want to succeed at the highest level, you must learn to value your time above all else, because time is the currency of life, and how you spend it determines the quality of your days, the direction of your future, and the impact of your legacy. And the tragedy is that many people will trade hours of their life for pennies, working endlessly on tasks that drain them, investing energy into pursuits that go nowhere, or giving their attention to distractions that bring no return, simply because they never stopped to calculate the true cost of their time. But if you want success, you must think differently. You must measure every decision not only by its financial reward, but by its time cost, asking yourself, is this worth my life energy? Is this worth the irreplaceable minutes of my existence? Because every yes you give is a withdrawal from the finite bank of time, and when that bank runs out, no amount of regret or money will buy another second. And it is not wrong to desire money, because money is a tool. It provides freedom, it creates opportunities, it allows generosity, but money should never be pursued at the expense of time, because then you are enslaved to it. You are working endlessly, accumulating wealth. You do not have the health, the relationships, or the joy to enjoy, and that is not success. That is tragedy disguised as achievement. And if you look closely at those who live with wisdom, you will see that they do not chase money endlessly. They chase time freedom. They chase the ability to decide how they spend their hours. They chase a life designed around what matters, not what pays the most. And that is where true wealth is found, not in the size of your bank account, but in the freedom of your schedule, not in the luxury of possessions, but in the abundance of meaningful moments. Because at the end of life, no one wishes for more money, but everyone wishes for more time with family, more time with friends, more time to live fully. And that truth alone should change the way you prioritize your days. Yet society trains us to think differently. It trains us to sacrifice years of our life in exchange for paychecks, to believe that the goal is retirement at 65 when the body is tired and the years are mostly spent. But what sense does it make to wait until the twilight of life to enjoy the gift of time, when you could begin designing a life of balance, purpose, and freedom now by learning to value time above money? And this does not mean abandoning responsibility, but it means refusing to sell your soul for a wage, refusing to trade all your hours for income while your dreams collect dust, because the richest life is not measured by the dollars you earn, but by the experiences you live. And experiences require time. Think about how you spend your hours each day. Do you invest them in building skills that multiply your value, in nurturing relationships that bring joy, in pursuing projects that fulfill your purpose, or do you spend them endlessly chasing money with no direction, no vision, no end? Because chasing money without valuing time will leave you both poor and empty. But valuing time will often lead to wealth as a byproduct. Because when you spend time wisely, when you focus on learning, creating, growing, and building, money eventually follows. But if you chase money without wisdom, you waste both time and potential. And here is a question that can change your life. If you were given $1 million today, but told you had only 1 year to live, would the money matter? And if not, then why do so many people live as if money is everything, sacrificing years for dollars they may never live to spend, instead of treasuring the time they already have? Because life is short, and time is the only resource that, once gone, is gone forever. So you must begin to treat it as the treasure it is, to protect it from thieves of distraction, to invest it in what matters most, to spend it with people who bring light, and to refuse to waste it on what does not serve your soul. And when you live this way, you will find a deep sense of wealth that money alone cannot buy, the wealth of presence, of purpose, of freedom, of joy. But understand this too: valuing time above money does not mean rejecting money. It means using money as a servant, not a master.
It means earning wisely, spending consciously, investing intelligently, but always keeping in mind that the true goal of wealth is not more money but more time. And when you reach the point where money buys you back your time, where you no longer trade hours for survival, but design hours for fulfillment, then you have achieved true success, because you are free to live on your own terms, and that freedom is priceless. So as you move forward, shift your perspective. Stop asking only, how much will this earn me? And start asking also, how much of my life will this cost me? And if the cost is too high, if the trade steals too much time from your health, your growth, your loved ones, or your purpose, then the money is not worth it, because nothing can replace the time lost. And that is the truth you must carry. Money can be replaced, but time never can. So live as if your hours are gold, spend them with intention, invest them with wisdom, protect them with courage, and in doing so, you will not only succeed in life, you will truly live it. Discipline over motivation is one of the most life-changing principles you can ever embrace. Because motivation is fleeting, it comes and goes like the wind, sometimes strong, sometimes absent, and if you build your life on motivation, you will find yourself inconsistent, unreliable, and frustrated, because no one wakes up motivated every day, no one feels like working hard every single morning, and no one is naturally inspired at every moment of their life. But discipline is different. Discipline is steady. Discipline is dependable. Discipline is a decision you make and a promise you keep to yourself regardless of how you feel, and it is discipline that separates those who dream from those who achieve, because dreams are fueled by motivation, but achievements are built by discipline. And when you understand this, you stop waiting for the perfect mood, the perfect moment, the perfect spark of energy, and you start acting, because action itself creates progress. Progress creates momentum, and momentum eventually rekindles motivation. So discipline is the engine, while motivation is just the spark. And if you only rely on sparks, you will never keep the engine running. But if you rely on discipline, you can keep moving even when the spark is gone. And that is why the most successful people in the world are not the most motivated, but the most disciplined. They do not depend on inspiration to work. They depend on their commitment. They show up even when they are tired, even when they are uninspired, even when they would rather rest. And that showing up again and again builds a character that cannot be broken. Because discipline is not just about habits. It is about identity. It is about saying, I am the kind of person who does what must be done, whether I feel like it or not. And when that becomes your identity, success becomes inevitable, because consistency wins over intensity every time, and discipline is consistency in action. Think about athletes. They train not when they are motivated, but because it is required. Think about writers. They sit down to write even when the words feel stuck. Think about entrepreneurs. They push forward with their plans, even when doubt whispers failure. And it is in those moments, when the emotion is absent, but the discipline remains, that greatness is forged, because anyone can act when they feel good, but the true test is whether you act when you do not. And that is why discipline matters more than motivation, because it carries you when emotions fail you, and emotions will fail you. Because human beings are wired for comfort. Our natural state is to seek ease, to avoid pain, to delay effort, and if you let emotions dictate your actions, you will always fall back into comfort. But discipline is the bridge between your comfort zone and your goals, and crossing that bridge daily is the difference between a wasted life and a fulfilled one. So you must train yourself to choose discipline over feelings, to build systems instead of relying on mood, to create routines that guide you forward no matter what. Because routines are the skeleton of discipline. They remove decision fatigue. They automate your progress. They keep you moving when willpower is low. And the more you systemize your life, the less you have to rely on fragile motivation. And the more you rely on discipline, the stronger you become. But make no mistake, discipline is not easy. It demands sacrifice. It demands patience. It demands doing the boring, the repetitive, the hard things again and again, and that is why so few people truly master it. But if you do, you will have an edge over nearly everyone, because most people quit when motivation fades. Most people delay when energy is low. Most people make excuses when conditions are not ideal. But the disciplined person does not quit, does not delay, does not excuse, and that alone ensures they get further, because success is rarely about brilliance. It is about persistence. It is about showing up again and again until the results come, and discipline guarantees that you show up. And when you show up enough times, results cannot help but appear. And when results appear, motivation eventually follows. But the order is clear: discipline first, motivation second, never the other way around. So how do you build discipline? You build it the same way you build muscle, through repetition, through resistance, through training. You start small, you keep promises to yourself. You do what you said you would do, even if it is uncomfortable. And every time you do, you strengthen the muscle of discipline, and the stronger it becomes, the easier it gets to act without hesitation, to resist excuses, to push through resistance, and soon discipline becomes automatic. It becomes who you are, and that transformation is what creates unstoppable people, because once you are disciplined, no circumstance, no mood, no excuse can hold you back. And the truth is, if you rely only on motivation, you will never live your potential, because motivation is a liar. It promises to be there forever, but disappears when you need it most. But discipline is loyal. It never abandons you. It carries you when your energy is low. It guides you when your vision is unclear. It protects you from procrastination, and it ensures that you keep walking the path of growth. And that loyalty is what builds trust with yourself, because discipline is self-respect. It is proving to yourself that you can be trusted to act. And that trust is the foundation of confidence, because confidence is not simply believing you can succeed. It is knowing you will act regardless of how you feel, and that certainty comes only from discipline. So make the choice today. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting to feel inspired. Stop waiting for motivation to strike, because motivation is unreliable. But discipline is a decision, and you can decide now, in this moment, to act. And that act, repeated daily, will transform your life, because the difference between the person who dreams and the person who achieves is not talent, it is not luck, it is not motivation, it is discipline. And the sooner you build it, the sooner you will realize that success is not about waiting for the right mood. It is about creating the right habits, and those habits will carry you to heights you never imagined, all because you chose discipline over motivation. The power of saying no is one of the most liberating and life-changing abilities you can ever develop. Because every yes you say is not free, every yes costs you something, whether it is your time, your focus, your energy, or your peace of mind. And most people ruin their lives not by saying yes to big mistakes, but by saying yes to too many small things, scattering their attention, diluting their power, and filling their days with obligations that bring them no closer to their goals. And the reason they do this is fear. Fear of disappointing others, fear of missing out, fear of being judged, fear of being disliked. But if you want to live wisely, if you want to achieve success, if you want to spend your time intentionally, you must overcome that fear and embrace the word no, not as an act of selfishness, but as an act of wisdom, because every no protects your yes. Every no saves space for what truly matters. Every no is a declaration that your life is valuable, that your time is finite, and that you will not trade it carelessly. And when you learn to say no firmly, kindly, and unapologetically, you unlock a power that frees you from the chains of people, pleasing and distractions, because people pleasing may earn you temporary approval, but it steals your long-term fulfillment, and distractions may give you temporary comfort, but they rob you of progress. And the only way to reclaim your time and energy is by saying no to what does not serve your mission, your values, and your peace. Saying no does not make you unkind, it makes you clear, and clarity is kindness to both yourself and others, because when you are honest about your limits, your priorities, and your commitments, you prevent resentment, you prevent burnout, and you prevent the frustration that comes from overpromising and underdelivering. And yet so many people continue to overextend themselves, to nod yes while their heart screams no, to carry burdens that are not theirs, to commit to paths that are not aligned, and they wonder why they feel exhausted, why they feel lost, why they feel empty. But the answer is simple: they gave away their time too cheaply, and the world will always take as much as you are willing to give. So you must decide how much of yourself you will share, and how much you will protect, and that decision begins with no. Imagine your life as a garden, and your time and energy as water. If you pour water on every patch of soil, even the weeds, your flowers will wither. But if you say no to watering the weeds, if you direct your water to the flowers, your garden will flourish. And the same is true of your life, because your flowers are your goals, your dreams, your health, your family, your calling, and your weeds are the obligations, the distractions, the toxic relationships, the meaningless pursuits. And unless you learn to say no to the weeds, your flowers will never bloom. So you must choose carefully, because what you say yes to determines what grows in your life. And here is the paradox: when you say no to the wrong things, you create space for the right things. When you say no to shallow opportunities, you create space for deep fulfillment. When you say no to toxic people, you create space for meaningful connections. When you say no to distractions, you create space for focus. And that space is where greatness is born, because greatness requires depth, and depth requires focus, and focus requires the discipline to say no. Look at the most successful people in the world. They are not those who said yes to everything. They are those who said yes to a few important things and no to everything else. Because focus is impossible without boundaries, and boundaries are impossible without no. So if you want to succeed, you must train yourself to say no quickly, firmly and unapologetically, and do not explain yourself endlessly. Because no is a complete sentence, and while you can say it with kindness, you do not owe anyone justification for protecting your time, because the truth is, if you do not protect it, no one else will. People will continue to ask, to demand, to expect, and they will take until you collapse, and when you collapse, they will move on, leaving you empty. So the responsibility is yours to set limits, to defend them, and to stand by them even when it is uncomfortable. And yes, saying no will make some people upset, some will call you selfish, some will withdraw their approval, but you must understand that their disappointment is not your responsibility, because living for their approval is a prison, but living for your purpose is freedom, and freedom always requires the courage to say no. So, practice it in small ways first. Say no to distractions like endless scrolling. Say no to commitments that drain you. Say no to habits that weaken you. And as you build this muscle, you will grow stronger, more confident, more focused, until one day you realize that every no you spoke was actually a yes to something greater, a yes to your health, a yes to your dreams, a yes to your loved ones, a yes to your calling. And that realization will change everything, because suddenly you are no longer a victim of demands, but the architect of your days. And that is true power, the power of living by choice, not by obligation, the power of steering your ship instead of drifting, the power of saying no. So, from this moment forward, do not fear the word. Embrace it, honor it, wield it with wisdom, and remember that every no is not rejection but protection. It is not cruelty but clarity, and when you master it, you will live with the freedom, focus, and fulfillment that only come to those brave enough to say no. Rest is not laziness. Rest is not weakness. Rest is not a waste of time. but too many people treat it that way, believing that constant grinding, endless hustle, and perpetual motion are the only paths to success, and in doing so, they burn out, they collapse, they destroy their health, their relationships, and even their creativity, all because they never learned the truth, that rest is as essential to success as effort, that recovery is as necessary as work, that balance is not the enemy of ambition but its fuel, because no human being can sustain output without input, no machine can run forever without maintenance, and no mind can create without pause, and yet society glorifies exhaustion. It praises those who sacrifice sleep, who skip meals, who never take breaks, who push themselves to the edge of collapse, as if self-destruction were a badge of honor. But in reality it is foolishness, because success built on exhaustion cannot last. It crumbles under the weight of burnout. It collapses under the strain of neglect. But success built on rest endures, because rest replenishes energy, rest restores focus, rest revives creativity, rest repairs the body, rest heals the mind, and rest strengthens the spirit. And when you understand this, you stop feeling guilty for resting and start seeing it as a strategic investment, not wasted time but multiplied time, because an hour of rest often makes the next 3 hours twice as productive, while an hour of exhausted work makes the next 3 hours half as effective. And that difference is the difference between mediocrity and mastery. So if you want to succeed, you must learn to rest intentionally, deeply, and unapologetically. Rest is not the same as distraction. It is not numbing yourself with endless scrolling or drowning yourself in noise. True rest is restorative. It is purposeful. It is the choice to recharge your body, refresh your mind, and renew your soul, whether through sleep, solitude, reflection, nature, or meaningful stillness. And when you honor these practices, you unlock power that constant business never gives. Because clarity comes in stillness, creativity comes in silence, wisdom comes in reflection, and strength comes in recovery. And some of your greatest breakthroughs will not come when you are forcing yourself to grind, but when you are resting, when your mind is calm enough to connect ideas, when your spirit is quiet enough to hear intuition, when your body is strong enough to carry vision into reality. And this is why rest is not laziness but wisdom. Think of athletes. They do not train without pause, because they know that rest days build muscle, that recovery prevents injury, that balance sustains performance. And if even the strongest bodies require rest to grow, how much more does your mind, your heart, your spirit need it? Because you are not a machine, you are a living being, and living beings thrive on cycles of activity and recovery, effort and renewal, work and rest. And when you deny yourself this cycle, you deny yourself the chance to reach your true potential. And understand this: rest is not something you earn only after exhaustion. Rest is something you schedule before exhaustion. It is not the reward after you collapse. It is the rhythm that prevents collapse. It is not a luxury for when you have time. It is a necessity for making time valuable. And when you plan your days, your weeks, your months, you must include rest not as an afterthought, but as a priority, because when you plan for it, you protect it, and when you protect it, you multiply your capacity, and that capacity is what sustains long-term success, because success is not about sprinting until you fall, but about running the marathon of life with strength. And marathons require pacing, they require breath, they require rest. Do not be deceived by the noise of hustle culture. Do not believe the lie that sleep is for the weak, because sleep is for the wise. And even science confirms that without it, your brain cannot focus, your body cannot repair, your emotions cannot stabilize, and your immune system cannot defend. And every hour you rob from rest is an hour you rob from your health. And every hour you rob from your health is an hour you rob from your future. So stop treating exhaustion as glory and start treating rest as strategy, because it is. And the most successful people in the world know this. They schedule rest, they guard their sleep, they honor their downtime, because they understand that they are not just working for today, they are building for decades. And decades cannot be built on burnout, only on balance. And do not confuse rest with idleness, because rest has purpose, idleness avoids purpose, rest renews for action, idleness avoids action, rest prepares you to return stronger, idleness weakens you with neglect. And the difference is intention, so be intentional with your rest, make it sacred, make it meaningful, make it restorative, and when you do, you will see that rest is not an obstacle to success, but an accelerator of it, because the rested mind thinks sharper, the rested body works harder, the rested soul dreams bigger, and the rested heart loves deeper, and that is success in every sense. So release the guilt, let go of the shame, stop apologizing for taking time to rest, because you do not owe the world constant exhaustion, you owe yourself sustainability, you owe your family presence, you owe your purpose longevity, and all of these require rest. And when you embrace this truth, you will live stronger, work smarter, and rise higher, because rest is not laziness, rest is wisdom, and the sooner you accept it, the sooner you will unlock the strength to live the life you were meant to live. Focus on progress, not perfection, because perfection is an illusion, a moving target that no one can ever truly reach, a mirage that shifts further away the closer you walk toward it. And if you make perfection your goal, you will live paralyzed, stuck in hesitation, trapped in overthinking, endlessly editing, adjusting, doubting, and delaying, until the opportunities of life pass you by. But if you make progress your focus, if you decide that growth, even imperfect growth, is more valuable than waiting for flawless conditions, then you will move forward, and moving forward is what creates results, because success is not built on perfection but on persistence, not on flawless execution but on repeated effort, not on waiting until you are ready but on starting before you feel prepared. And when you understand this, you release the weight of unrealistic expectations. You silence the voice that tells you you're not good enough, and you begin to live with freedom, because progress is freedom. It is permission to try, to fail, to learn, to improve, to adapt, to keep going, while perfection is a prison. It demands you never make a mistake. It punishes you for trying. It mocks you for being human, and in doing so, it robs you of the very growth that comes through imperfection. Think about it. Every skill you admire, every success you respect, every master you follow began imperfectly. The writer's first draft was clumsy. The speaker's first words were shaky. The athlete's first attempts were awkward. The leader's first decisions were flawed. But because they chose progress over perfection, they improved. And because they improved, they became extraordinary. And that same truth applies to you. Because no one becomes great overnight. Greatness is the accumulation of small steps, small improvements, small wins, repeated consistently over time, and that accumulation compounds into mastery, but it begins with progress, and only progress, never perfection. The danger of perfection is that it disguises itself as high standards. It makes you believe you are noble for demanding the best. But what it really does is delay action. It keeps you stuck in preparation. It convinces you that tomorrow will be better, that you need more knowledge, more resources, more time before you start. But tomorrow never comes, conditions are never perfect, and perfectionists waste years waiting while progress makers build empires. And the truth is, imperfect action will always beat perfect inaction, because progress, even flawed progress, moves you closer to your goal, while perfection leaves you stuck at the starting line, wishing, dreaming, planning but never doing, and life rewards the